All right, we're ready to rock. So how does aging affect sleep? That's a question that I get quite a bit with some of my older coaching clients. Obviously, when we age, a lot of things change in our body. And one is our shifting sleep schedule. As you've gotten older, you might, even from when you're an infant to an adolescent to a teenager, and all of those stages through life, our sleep schedule shifts, right? A lot of people as they get older, and usually it happens even starting in the 30s and the 40s. And as we get older, we tend to go to bed a little bit earlier and wake up a little bit earlier. That's just our natural rhythms that our body, wants us to do. But something else you might experience is waking up at night more often. It might be, you have to use the bathroom or things like that. But actually, as we get older, our sleep architecture changes. And what sleep architecture means is the rhythm of our different sleep cycles. So you might know that we have non-rapid eye movement sleep and rapid eye movement sleep. They're two different types of sleep. Your body naturally goes between the two as you sleep. Rapid eye movement, or REM sleep, is that really, really deep sleep where, the fire alarm might be going off and you might not even hear it, right? That really good, deep, restful sleep. That's also the sleep that when you get woken up, when you're in that cycle, you feel very, very tired. So when we have our sleep architecture, naturally what it looks like, if you saw it on a graph, it would kind of look like a city skyline. You'd be in the non-rapid eye movement sleep and then down to the rapid eye movement and back up. It naturally happens through the night. But what happens when we get older is our sleep architecture changes and it might be a little bit more disturbed. That's something that does naturally happen. So if you're someone who is waking up more at night, we'll talk about some things that you can do, but know that, that oftentimes is a common occurrence. And sometimes we feel the need to nap more as we get older. I know I like to nap, but sometimes we get tired, just need a little nap. We'll talk a little bit more about napping later in the presentation. And then a longer recovery from changes in sleep schedule. So, if you're someone who likes a consistent sleep schedule, that's great. That's one of the best things that you can do to make sure you're getting enough sleep. But if we have to change our sleep schedule, or maybe we go on vacation or something happens, it might take us longer to recover and feel kind of normal again. And sometimes we have pain and discomfort from a variety of different reasons, and it can make it a little bit more difficult to sleep at night. Sleep apnea is also more common as we age. And then, of course, if you have any other physical or mental illnesses, those can obviously affect the way that we sleep, right? As we get older, there's a ton of different things that can impact how we sleep as we age. But these are just a few of the big ones. But we'll talk about some different tips, different strategies that you can do to get more sleep, because I always joke that when I give presentations, I scare everybody about, if you don't do this, look at all the things that will happen. So I always make sure that I give you all tips and strategies to continue to rest well. And the number one thing you can do if you're somebody who is struggling to get enough sleep is to create a sleep routine. Our bodies love routines. That is one of the best things that we can do to get more sleep. Is to be consistent. And that means having a specific routine. And the first thing we want to do is set a wind down time. Of course, there might be some flexibility needed here, but overall, have a time in your brain where you decide, I'm not going to have any electronics, no cell phone or no TV or no screens. Typically, we like to recommend 30 minutes to an hour before bed. But if you want to give yourself a full 2 hours of no screen time, it can only benefit you. And then you also can establish a wake-up routine. So things like getting up, washing your face, maybe you stretch, maybe you enjoy a cup of coffee, have your breakfast, you read something, read the news, right? Whatever really works for you, just find something you could try consistently. And speaking of consistency, try to wake up and go to bed around the same time, even on weekends. This one could be a little bit tricky for younger folks, but I have to say, the older I get, I joke that I can't sleep in anymore anyway. So just try to keep those times consistent as much as possible. But I'm going to walk us through how to create a sleep routine before bed. These are just a couple examples of things that can be really, really helpful. So, let's say it's 8:30 or 9 o'clock is your time that you decide that you're not going to have any more electronics. So you can read a book. That's one of the best things that we can do. Reading is amazing. I think you all had a session yesterday about reading, if I'm not mistaken. So this is a perfect time to get reading before bed. There's so many good books out there. If anyone wants any book recommendations, I read a lot and I'm happy to send you some. But then you could also journal. Journaling is one of the most underrated things. Whether it's gratitude journaling, which is one of my favorite things to do, it could be as simple as reflecting on your day and just writing down 2 or 3 things that you're really grateful for, grateful to have a roof over your head, to know where your next meal is coming from, to have people in your life that you love and care about, right? All those things can make us feel really good and really content. You can also write down your worries. So one thing that I hear from a lot of folks is that, I get in bed and then my mind starts racing, or I start thinking about all the things that I have to do, or I'm worried about forgetting this. So what I like to do is I keep a little pad and pen next to my bed on my nightstand. And if I have any of those thoughts come up, like, oh, I got to remember to email this person tomorrow, I just quickly write it down, because then it's somewhere. I know I'm not going to forget it. And now I can kind of release it, right? So next time, or if you're somebody who does experience that, racing thoughts or worries, or I don't want to forget this, try just keeping a pen and paper next to your bed, and just try writing a few things down. Or if you just want to have an actual journal entry about that too, always a good idea. You could also have a snack. We don't want to go to bed hungry. We don't want to go to bed too full either, but going to bed hungry is going to make it more likely that we wake up in the middle of the night, or we don't enter that REM sleep cycle that we need. So here's just a couple ideas: yogurt, nuts, oatmeal, cherries, and bananas. So we want something that's balanced in nutrition. So yogurt obviously can have some good fat in it, as well as protein. Nuts, same thing. Oatmeal is a slow digesting complex carbohydrate with fiber, and that can also help us keep us full. Now, cherries and bananas are 2 fruits that do have melatonin and serotonin in them. So melatonin is our sleep hormone. That's that hormone that stimulates that sleep response. Serotonin is that happy hormone that makes us feel good, relaxed. Cherries, I believe, have the most serotonin or melatonin out of any fruit. So they're a good staple bedtime snack, and they're really good for you too. And of course, there are other foods you can try too. At the end of this presentation, I've linked to a number of resources, and one of them is an article about good pre-sleep foods. Another great one is to take a warm bath or shower. That can help relax us. It also helps loosen up our muscles if we're somebody who keeps a lot of tension in our body. And it's just a good opportunity for you to decompress, have some time with yourself to just relax and breathe and not have to worry about anything else. So, and it feels really good to get into a bed nice and clean at night. And then also sipping on caffeine-free herbal teas. And again, doing these things consistently, your body will begin to say, oh, this is what Katie does when she's getting ready for bed, right? She sips valerian root tea, which I actually do. But chamomile and valerian root are both natural herbal teas that you can get at any store that have relaxing effects. Chamomile is naturally extremely relaxing, and valerian root is as well. And for people who, a lot of people do take melatonin, which again is a naturally occurring hormone in the body. But valerian root supplements are another good alternative that are all natural as well. So these are just a couple examples, but so just, reflect and think through do you have a sleep routine? Is there anything about it that maybe you should change, or you want to, add things to? But again, the key here is consistency. Let your body have that opportunity to recognize what you're doing, and you will very quickly realize that your body is very smart and will kind of start to slow down, release more natural melatonin when we are consistent here. And so caffeine, I don't know about you, but I love a good cup of coffee in the morning. I look forward to when I wake up. And, caffeine has benefits, of course, but it is a stimulant. It is a drug. And so we need to make sure that we are not overdoing it with caffeine. So Typically, you don't want to have more than 400 milligrams of caffeine in a day, but a lot of people, especially women, have trouble tolerating even that much caffeine. So, everybody's body is different, but pay attention to how much caffeine you're consuming, which I'll show you a little chart on the next slide. But too much caffeine consumption can absolutely lead to poor sleep quality. Even if you're tired, if you've ever had caffeine too close to bedtime, you get in bed, you're tired, but you can't sleep. That's common with too much caffeine. We also might feel anxious. That's very common too, because again, it is a stimulant. It increases our heart rate and it increases our anxious response. And then sometimes we get headaches. If you're somebody who, if you don't have 3 cups of coffee a day, you get a headache, it might be time to consider weaning yourself off a little bit. If you're someone who's looking to drink less caffeine, start very slow. Again, because it's a drug, you can actually experience withdrawal symptoms. And so if you don't have your 3 or 4 cups and you get a headache, that is actually withdrawal. So it's really important that if you do decide to begin cutting back on your caffeine, go really, really slow. We don't want you to not feel so good. And this chart actually shows you how much caffeine is in a lot of drinks at stores. So typically your average cup of coffee has about 150 to 200 milligrams of caffeine. That's like your average home brewed medium roast cup of coffee. Light roast coffees actually have more caffeine than dark roasts, even though a lot of people think the opposite, but light roasts are roasted less. So they don't have a lot of that caffeine isn't roasted off. But as you can see here, soda tends to be relatively lower on the caffeine scale. Chai tea lattes, so tea we know tends to be lower. Tea tends to be anywhere from 20 to like 150 at its absolute highest. And then we see energy drinks. People think energy drinks, they think, oh, those are just absolutely loaded with caffeine, right? The reality is, look at our Starbucks venti coffee. A 20-ounce regular coffee from Starbucks has almost 500 milligrams of caffeine. And so Starbucks, out of all of the major coffee chains, tends to have the highest amount of caffeine in their coffee. It has to do with their beans and how they roast it. So if you are an avid Starbucks drinker, just something to be aware of. All of these coffee stores have their nutritional information on their websites, on their apps, all that stuff. And in store, you can ask for it as well. So just something to be aware of when we are consuming coffee or caffeine in any form, that there are a lot of like sneaky, I like to say, like they're almost like sneaky stressors, right? We don't realize how much caffeine is in some of these things. So just something to be aware of. And then napping. We hear a lot of different things about napping. Is napping good for me? Is napping not so good for me? And sometimes it's absolutely a good idea. So when should I consider a nap? There's a couple different scenarios. One is if you know you're going to experience sleep loss. So for example, if you work a night shift, you know that you're not going to be sleeping that night. Absolutely a good idea to kind of get ahead of it. So any kind of thing, or if you're going on a long road trip, or you have to wake up really early tomorrow, right? All those types of things where you're going to experience sleep loss, absolutely good idea. If you're experiencing new fatigue or unexpected sleepiness, so if you just in the middle of the day feel absolutely exhausted, it's probably a good idea to consider a nap then, because it might be your body telling you that, hey, we're fighting something off, right? That might be your immune response, that inflammation response. So if it's unexpected or new, it might be a good idea to consider as well. And then too, if you want to make planned naps a part of your life, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But again, consistency is key here. So if you want to take a 30-minute nap at 3 o'clock every day, just keep consistent with it, because if you're consistent, it likely will not interfere with your nighttime sleep routine. But there are a few times when napping isn't ideal, and it typically is after 3 p.m. I would probably say even after 2 p.m. Usually I tell college students after 3 p.m., but these kids stay up really late. And I don't know about y'all, but I don't stay up really late anymore. I'm past that. So, maybe even after 2 p.m., you want to kind of steer clear of napping, just because that can interfere with our sleep. And then if you can't set an alarm for napping, you probably also might want to skip it. Because what can happen is if we nap longer than really 30, 45 minutes, we actually will enter that deep REM sleep, right? That deep sleep cycle. And so what happens is, let's say you take a 3-hour nap, you've entered that REM sleep cycle a couple times. And when you wake up, you're going to experience what's called sleep inertia. So what sleep inertia is that feeling, right when you wake up and you're just really tired still. And sometimes it can last a while. That's sleep inertia. You're much more likely to experience that when you have a nap longer than 30 to 45 minutes. That feeling can last up to 4 hours. So if you've ever taken a nap and woken up wondering what year it is, and you feel almost worse after your nap, that's because you might have napped too long and you're experiencing sleep inertia. So again, napping can absolutely be beneficial to us, but just in certain situations. And so creating a healthy sleep environment is really, really important too. And that means having boundaries around your sleep environment. And so decluttering your space. I have a habit of watching TV in bed, but beds are for sleeping and sex. That's what we like to say. Those are the two things you should be doing in bed. Otherwise, it can get really, really complicated. If you're doing work in bed, if you're watching TV for hours on end, what happens is your brain begins to recognize your bed as just another space in your house. When really what we want is your bed to be recognized as the place where I relax, right? So try not to use your bed for other things. You should also turn your temperature down. So the Sleep Foundation, which is one of the nation's leaders on all things sleep, recommends having a temperature actually between 60 and 70 degrees. It used to be between, I think, 65 and 72, but they've recently changed it to 60 to 70 degrees. So of course we want you to be comfortable. So if you're, if that's too cold for you, by all means, find what works for you. But we know from a physiological standpoint, 60 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit tends to be where our body kind of can just really rest and recharge. And you also want to have a comfortable bed, right? So if you have an older mattress, this might be a time to really reconsider getting a mattress that's better for you. Especially chronic back pain is extremely, extremely common in all people of all ages in the US, but especially as we get older. Oftentimes an old mattress can be to blame for that too. So, I highly recommend, if you haven't replaced your mattress in 10 years, now might be the time to examine that, especially if you're having back pain. But you can also add a mattress topper, replace those pillows, get comfortable blankets. Like, remember, your bed should be your oasis. It should be your palace. It should be where you can, just relax and ease into a deep sleep. So do what you need to do to make it comfortable for you. And that includes also making it dark. So again, we know physiologically that our bodies need darkness to sleep. It's okay if you need a little bit of a nightlight or things like that, but overall, we want a dark sleep environment. So, I know for me, I use blackout curtains because I live off a busy street, and that allows me to get a really, really nice, cool, dark room. And then, of course, creating that sleep routine, which we talked about a little bit earlier, is just going to make all of this a lot more effective. And this is just kind of to sum up some of the things that we talked about today. One is to avoid caffeine and alcohol about 4 to 6 hours before bedtime. If you're really sensitive to caffeine, you might need to avoid caffeine, up to 8 hours or even more before bed. But again, everybody's body is different. So just kind of play around with that. And alcohol too is another one that we didn't touch too much on today, but overall, although alcohol is a depressant, unlike caffeine, which is a stimulant, alcohol does disrupt our sleep and makes it very difficult for us to enter that rapid eye movement sleep. Even one glass of wine or one beer can do that. So if you find that you are having some sleep disturbances, you might want to have that glass of wine a little bit earlier in the day. Well, not too early, right? But you might want to not have it right before bed. Something I do hear from people is, I have like a drink right before I go to bed. It helps me fall asleep. That might be true that alcohol helps you fall asleep, but it will not help you stay asleep. And even if you do get sleep, it's not that high quality, deep sleep that you actually really need. So if you need alcohol to fall asleep, that's something else that you want to think through about, what can I do to replace that? Because that obviously isn't something that we want to get in the habit of too much. Another great thing that we can do to get better, more restful sleep is to exercise, move your body. Find some kind of way to move your body. I actually think that's y'all's next session with us, is about moving well. And, when I say exercise, I could also say physical activity, which is just any kind of bodily movement. And so, we'll talk about this more at that session, but finding ways that you enjoy to move your body. If you don't like going to the gym, you don't have to go to the gym. Go for a walk, take the stairs instead of the elevator, do little things throughout the day. Because when we're physically moving our body, we absolutely get better, more restful sleep. And that's just overall great for us, right? Another biggie is to turn the screens off. So blue light, which is the light that's emitted from screens like laptops, cell phones, TVs, computers, all that good stuff, that keeps us awake. Blue light emulates the light waves that we get from the sun, which is great during the day, right? But actually what happens is that blue light tells the part of our brain that produces melatonin, hey, it's daytime, don't produce any melatonin. So if we're on our screens late at night, and we're looking at this blue light, our brain isn't really able to accurately recognize that, hey, it's actually bedtime and I need you to create that melatonin for me, right? So, try to minimize the screen time, and because upsetting media can keep us awake. So I used to get in a bad habit of reading about the news at night. That's not a good idea. I don't recommend that, right? We might see things that frustrate us or upset us. So, having that strict cutoff time that we talked about earlier about this is when I'm going to begin winding down. Now, if you absolutely have to be on your screens, let's say you're working on something, highly recommend turning on a setting that is on a Mac, it's called night shift. On Android, I think it's called something similar. There's also apps that you can download on your computers and phones if yours don't have that. But what that does is it blocks the blue light and it gives the screen more of an orangey tint. So that's if you absolutely need to be on your screen to finish some work. I know that happens sometimes, but overall, try not to be on the screens too late at night. And then again, stick to a schedule. That's probably something you've heard me say a lot on this presentation, but I can't say it enough. That consistency, not even just talking about sleep, talking about physical activity, talking about eating, talking about our mental health care, being consistent is so much more effective than being perfect, right? You're going to make mistakes as you try to, set goals and take care of yourself, because it can be really hard, right? But as long as you are consistent and you try, that is going to pay off so much more in the long run. And then, of course, don't go to bed hungry or stuffed. So that light snack that we talked about earlier, fruits can be great, complex carbohydrates, even like a piece of whole wheat toast with peanut butter, that's a great one. So it's complex carbohydrates, some healthy fat, and a little bit of protein is a good idea. But again, don't want to eat too much before bed, because that can also wake us up in the middle of the night or interfere with our sleep cycle. We'll send out this PowerPoint for everybody. And these are just some links to some additional resources on aging and sleep, different foods to help you sleep guidelines specific to the COVID-19 pandemic, because some things have changed, and, it's no secret that all of our lives have been impacted by this. And so you might be struggling to sleep because of anxiety and mental health stuff, right? So included that here too. How to establish a wake-up routine, as well as some steps to wind down and fall asleep. And of course, exercising for better sleep as well. And I know I saw some things in our chat. So I'm happy if anyone wants to drop any questions in there. Again, we'll send this PowerPoint out to you all. And this is my contact information. So, that's my personal email as well as my departmental email. And I've also included some links to our Wellness and Recreation Department website, as well as our university-wide wellness website. as alumni, you are able to join wellness and recreation as well. We have a lot of alumni who utilize our facility. We actually have a brand new facility that just opened in October. And we've been able to be open, of course, with a lot of COVID-19 precautions as well. But, you know, if you have questions about membership to that or any of those questions at all, feel free to shoot me an email as well. And I'm going to look at the chat real quick. Let's see. All right, so I have a couple questions that I see here. One of our folks started taking ibuprofen PM in order to help get a decent night's sleep. Any long-term detrimental effects from this? So yeah, ideally you don't want to be taking that long-term. Ibuprofen PM is really meant for short-term things. So ibuprofen is an anti-inflammatory pain relieving drug. And so it does actually physically help with inflammation. So if if you're really active or you have like a muscle ache or things like that, it's an anti-inflammatory with a sleep aid. So when I say sleep aid, I don't mean something like melatonin, which is naturally occurring. Sleep aids are not naturally occurring and they can become addictive. So if you need to take ibuprofen a couple times, you know, to help you get through some kind of pain, it's okay, but definitely long-term, it's not something that you want to keep going back to. If you are struggling to sleep, I would recommend more natural alternatives like melatonin or valerian root or things like that, as well as, you know, trying some of these like habitual things. And then another question about thoughts on how to limit or eliminate dreams that might disturb our sleep. So yeah, dreams are a tough one because I'm sure everyone on this call has experienced disturbing dreams, nightmares, things like that, and it can really impact our sleep. My best advice is I keep a dream journal, and when I wake up, I write down my dreams. One, because my mother is, she's really into dream analysis and she likes to talk with me through my dreams and help me kind of piece together. But dreams can really tell us a lot about ourselves and our emotions, what we're experiencing. So if you're experiencing, you know, dreams that are really not sitting with you well, it also might be a time for you to explore your mental health and well-being. It's likely that you have stressors in your life or things that are upsetting you or difficult for you. And one thing about me is I can never recommend therapy enough. It's the best thing I've ever done to take care of myself and my well-being, and it's impacted me positively in every single aspect of my life. So if it's something that's really interfering with your life, which when we're not getting enough sleep, that can really, really interfere with our well-being. So I would say try keeping a dream journal, and then also consider some other things for your mental health, like counseling, meditation, things like that. Does anyone else have any questions about sleep, or, you know, anyone want any clarifications? Anyone want to share anything that they do that's really helpful for them when they're trying to get sleep? I see Anne has her hand up.
Hi, I wake up a lot and can't go back to sleep, and I sometimes take trazodone. What do you think of trazodone?
So I'm not a physician, so I don't typically comment too much on those types of things. I would say if you are concerned about how you use it, I would definitely check with your physician, because trazodone absolutely has, you know, it works, right? And people do take it. But I would definitely check with your physician on that one. As far as, you know, waking up in the middle of the night, you know, try some of the things that we talked about today, you know, with different sleep routines, and, you know, just see if that helps at all over a couple weeks. It's just that consistency. But stuff like that, I would definitely say your physician will be the best person to kind of help you with those. Yeah.
Miss Belusa.
Hi.
You mind if I ask a couple questions?
Go for it.
I have 3 for you.
Okay,
So,
I'll do my best.
I'll kind of two are kind of lumped together. So the melatonin, the first question is, if we take melatonin, is that going to somehow turn the melatonin creators off that our body naturally makes? And then the second thing is, I've never taken melatonin, but what should we look when we take melatonin? How should we be looking to feel?
Those are good questions. So as far as melatonin goes, I'll start with dosing too, because melatonin, again, we naturally create that in our brain. But typically, if you've never taken it before, I want to start usually between 2 and 5 milligrams is a starting point. And then you can go up to 10 milligrams of melatonin. I would never take more than that. So if you've never taken it, a lot of melatonin comes in 3 milligrams. Basically, if the way you would feel with taking melatonin is just tired, like normal tired. Again, it's not a drug. It's a naturally occurring hormone in your body. So it will just feel like normal sleepiness. If you've ever taken like a Benadryl or a sleep aid, that's a different type of drowsiness. Melatonin will just feel more natural. And as far as does it turn off those mechanisms in your brain, there's not any research that says that, which is good. I have talked to many physicians about this one too, because I do regularly use melatonin if I'm, having trouble sleeping. So there's not any research that shows that. A lot of physicians regularly recommend small bits of melatonin. A lot of people use, more severe things to help them sleep. And because melatonin is naturally occurring, it is one of the more likely, higher recommended things. So there's no research that shows that. It is highly recommended by physicians, by the Sleep Foundation. You can get it anywhere. I personally like the ones that you put under your tongue and they melt. And, again, starting with 2 to 3 milligrams, not really going above 10 is ideal. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. So it sounds like melatonin would be good if we're not tired, and then it would make us tired, or is it one of those, like, if we're tired, it'd help you fall asleep, or both?
Yeah, it can do both. But if you're not tired, it's not like a magic thing, again, because it's just a naturally occurring thing found in our body. Right. So if you take melatonin, you're not tired, you still need to get in bed. You still need to turn the light off. You still need to try to relax and, keep doing those things. It's certainly not like an Ambien or anything like that. It's just a more natural, restful sleep. But if you have like more questions about melatonin and you're having sleep issues, like I always tell people, just chat with your physician too. That's a really great starting point because it is drug-free, if you are having issues. But if you do take melatonin, you still do need to do all the other things. It's not like you can keep watching TV or something, and you'll suddenly be tired, right? It works best when you are lights off, things like that.
Right. And so thank you for that. And then my last question is about snoring. I've got a friend and she snores, and the conversation is there's no way that she can be getting good sleep just with how loud her snoring is for her. Is snoring, I know this can be like indicative of apnea and all different kinds of stuff like that, but is anybody able to snore and also get a good night's sleep?
Yeah, so they are. And it depends on the person too. Some people snore so loud they wake themselves up, right? Or they wake their partners up, right? Like I've experienced that one myself. So like it's absolutely possible. Sometimes, snoring is an indicator of more serious problems. Sometimes it's really not. So if your friend is tired, is experiencing sleeplessness, restlessness, things like that because of her snoring, absolutely, it can affect that. Does it guarantee that she's going to be sleep deprived? No. It just depends on each individual person. But if it's interfering with her life, then like absolutely, go to your physician, because there are things that you can do to help it, and it could, be an indicator of something more serious.
Cool. Thanks for all the time on the questions.
Yeah, for sure. And I see a couple in my chat too, that people say they're waking up and they check the time. I used to do that too. And sometimes you're like, oh no, I only have 30 more minutes, or, like, oh yeah, I have more time. I used to do the same thing. And I also stopped checking the time. I don't have a clock in my room anymore. And I'm really glad that I did that, because if you're in the habit of constantly checking the time, it's going to automatically create a response in your body. You're going to have a reaction to the time, whether it's a good reaction or a bad reaction. So if you're someone who wakes up, checks the time, also ask yourself, why do I feel the need to know what time it is, right? I have an alarm set. It'll wake me up when it's time. So it's kind of like a little mind game you have to play with yourself, because I see a couple people experiencing that. Let's see what other questions that I have. I see tired after 30 minutes, more tired than normal in the morning. When we say tired after 30 minutes, does that mean tired after being awake for 30 minutes? Brian, do you want to clarify with that? I'm happy to answer the question. Oh, that's with melatonin. Yeah. You can experience some drowsiness in the morning. And again, everybody's body reacts differently. Some people have really wonky dreams when they take melatonin. And some people don't dream at all, right? Again, it is completely up to you and your body. And, I know for me, when I take melatonin, sometimes I am more drowsy in the morning as well. So I only really take it when I'm having trouble winding down. And how do you know if the melatonin you buy is safe? So I would just say stick to a pharmacy, a CVS, a Walgreens, Target, all those places. They're going to sell the good stuff. You're not going to get anything in those stores that's not good. I personally like the Walgreens generic kind. I found that just works best for my body, and I like the price. But this isn't like something that's just like black market, right? Like you're going to find it at any of those major stores. Let's see, any other questions? I see some people say they set their phone to the night shift setting. It's a great little thing. So it's really easy to do too, that you just, can put it on and it immediately changes the screen to block that, that blue light. So I'm glad to see some of our folks on here are doing that. And so another question about any thoughts on how to address sleepiness that comes after lunch, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. nap time when you can't get a nap. Yes. Oh, that mid-afternoon slump, right? We all know that one. So there's a couple reasons for that. Our body is naturally most tired at 2 points of the day, 2 p.m. and 2 a.m. That is when we want to sleep the most. Unfortunately, at 2 p.m., most of us are probably not able to sleep, right? Also, that it tends to be a little bit after lunchtime. And so while sometimes when we eat, it does energize us over time, it can also tire us. So one thing we can do is just think about our lunch choices. So having a nutritionally balanced meal is important. So complex carbohydrates at lunch is a good one. So also think whole grains, think fruits with fiber, things like that, a lean source of protein, drinking plenty of water. I've definitely noticed a difference in my mid-afternoon slump when I have a healthy, balanced lunch, and really just try to minimize the amount of sugar that you're having at lunchtime. And I'm not talking about fruit. Fruit's always a good idea, but try not to have any, too much of those simple carbohydrates, because they break down really, really quickly and they spike our glucose, and that can make us really tired once our insulin spikes as well. But I mean, you can also have, I like to sometimes have a cup of tea in the afternoon with only like 30 milligrams of caffeine. So it's low, but it sometimes is enough to give me a little bit of a push. Another thing that you can do is get a little bit of sunshine, especially as we get older. We tend to not get enough vitamin D, and we don't want too much sun time, but getting a little bit of natural sunlight can stimulate some vitamin D production and can help us with our mood and our energy. But just make sure that you wear sunscreen every day. Very, very important. I have it on right now. But yeah, even if you're going to go outside, make sure you have your sunscreen on, but a little bit of light can be really helpful too. So if you work in a cubicle, I'm very lucky that I work in an office with a lot of windows. But if you don't have as much access to sunlight, even if you're just standing by the window, or if you can, tough out the cold for a couple of minutes, that can help too. And two, moving your body, get up, stretch, walk for 5 minutes, do a couple squats. Some kind of movement can also energize your body as well. So next time you start to feel that mid-afternoon slump, try a couple of those things and, see if that helps. And I see a question about blue light glasses. So those are great too. I have a pair myself. So if you're not familiar, blue light blocking glasses are regular glasses. They're actually right here for me. They look like regular glasses, but they actually don't have a prescription lens, but they block blue light from all the screens. So if you don't have a setting on your computer or TV to block that blue light, you can purchase a pair of blue light blocking glasses. They sell them in a lot of different places. I think a lot of people go get them like at Amazon, but if you're trying not to shop at those bigger stores, there's plenty of places nearby too that you can get blue light blocking glasses. I think I paid like $15 for my pair. And they look cute, you know, it's a good look. So you can also get, if you have prescription glasses, you can also ask them to make your prescription lenses blue light blocking. That is an option as well. So I've done that with mine additionally. I see somebody says they used to take valerian root when traveling for business, found they slept differently, felt more rested with less sleep, and would wake up quickly in the morning. Does a valerian affect sleep architecture? That's actually a really great question. And I'm not 100% sure if it does or not, but I want to definitely look that up. I'm not sure if it does. Valerian root is mostly known for its calming effects. So oftentimes people feel very calm and sleepy when they take valerian. I don't know if it's because it does long-term affect sleep architecture or if it just, you know, makes it a little bit easier to fall asleep. But that's a really great question. And when I send out the slides to you all, I'm going to make sure I include the answer to that. I'm going to make a note of that. Any other questions? These are a lot of really good questions. Anything about sleep, anything about routines, or general wellness questions too. I'm happy to answer any of those. I'm not seeing any more questions. Oh, using valerian root tea and melatonin, using both is okay. I'm also gonna defer to, since that is more of a medical question, I would guess yes, but let's not take my word for it, but I'm gonna include that in the email too. I have a physician friend that I'm gonna ask some of these questions to after the call. Likely, yes, because they are naturally occurring things. And there are actually teas that have melatonin in them too. If you're interested in trying a valerian root tea, I personally love Sleepy Time Extra. That's what it's called. So Sleepy Time tea has some, you know, calming tea in there, but the Sleepy Time Extra has valerian root in it. So if you're interested in trying that and seeing, you know, if it's calming for you, definitely I would say give it a try. And it tastes good. Well, I think it tastes good. All right. And what is the sleep aid and ibuprofen PM? That's a good question. And we're going to find out right now. So a lot of them have different ones. There's a lot of different sleep aids. Let's see, Advil PM. What do we got in there? Let's see. It looks like it is. If I can pronounce this, let's see, diphenhydramine citrate is the sleep aid in Advil PM. Yeah, which is similar to Benadryl, I believe. But I think Benadryl is slightly different. But Benadryl is another thing people sometimes take for sleep. Obviously, it's an antihistamine. It's for allergies. But if you've ever taken Benadryl, you can know it can make you very sleepy. So there are a lot of different sleep aids out there. There's a ton. But again, a good rule of thumb with sleep aids is you don't want to make a habit of it. They can be addictive. They can interfere. Those can interfere with our sleep architecture. I do know for sure. So if you are relying on different substances to help you sleep, try some of the other things that we talked about today. And a lot of people do, when they start taking better care of their mental health, do start to sleep better. And so, even putting more energy towards taking care of yourself and prioritizing your own needs is always a good idea too. Any other questions?
All right, and with that, we are nearing the end. It's 1:14, and we want to be respectful of everyone's time. Thank you so much, Katie. Big claps, big waves. Thank you so much. This was so informative. I'm trying to look what I'm like. If I didn't have to work, this would be a perfect time for a nap right now.
I know. I feel it right now too.
I hope everyone is feeling better equipped to get better rest and how to get yourself there. Like Katie said, we are doing the final program of this series, which is Move Well, next Tuesday, same time. If you haven't registered and you're still interested, you can still do that. We will be following this up with the recording, the presentation, and the answers to the questions and resources that Katie has. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to reach out. Yes, eat well. Oh, did we do eat well? We just started. Did we just
last week?
Okay, yes.
That was with Lauren. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, we will work on getting all of that out as we can. And thank you all again. I hope you have a great week.
Thanks. Bye, everybody. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. Bye, all.